Racist cop attacks a black man in court, turns pale when she learns his true identity. The night was quiet in downtown Nashville, Tennessee. The kind of stillness that made every small sound feel louder. Lieutenant Corinne Dobbs sat in her patrol car at the corner of West End Avenue, watching. She wasn't looking for anything specific, just keeping an eye on things. At least, that's what she told herself. Then she saw him, a tall black man, dressed in a dark, tailored suit, walking near a high-end boutique. Something about him caught her attention. Maybe it was the way he moved, not rushed, not hesitant, just confident. She didn't like that ... She flicked on her headlights and rolled forward. Pulling up beside him, she leaned out of the window. "You live around here?" she asked, her tone carrying suspicion. The man turned his head slightly, meeting her eyes. "Excuse me?" His voice was calm, not defensive, not hostile. Just steady. Corinne didn't like that either. "It's a simple question." She stepped out of the car. "You match the description of a suspect we're looking for." That wasn't true, but it was all the excuse she needed. The man sighed, slow and deliberate. "And what description would that be?" Corinne squared her shoulders. "Dark suit, tall, walking in an area that's had recent break-ins." She saw the flicker in his eyes, not fear, but something else, annoyance, disbelief. "I see," he said. "Well, I'd be happy to clarify anything. Do you have probable cause to detain me?" Corinne clenched her jaw, his tone composed, sure of himself got under her skin. She was used to people backing down, fumbling over their words. "He wasn't. Let's see some ID." The man hesitated, not because he didn't have it, but because he knew exactly where this was going. And he was right. Before he could reach into his pocket, Corinne took a step forward. "Hands where I can see them." He exhaled, clearly frustrated. "Officer, this is unnecessary." "Turn around." His shoulders tensed. "Are you arresting me?" "Turn around." Slowly, carefully, like a man who had been through this before, he complied. She cuffed him, just like that. It was done. But something felt off. No arguments, no shouting, no threats of a lawsuit. Just quiet compliance, like a man who knew this was only the beginning. She had no idea how right he was. The Davidson County Courthouse buzzed with voices as Lieutenant Corinne Dobbs adjusted her uniform. She had done this before, stood in front of a judge, given her account, walked out without a second thought. This was just another day, another suspect, another open and shut case, except it wasn't. Across the room, Terrence Lawson sat at the defense table. His posture was relaxed, his hands folded neatly in front of him. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look like a man on trial. And that annoyed her. Corinne kept her face neutral as she took the stand. The prosecutor, a middle-aged man in a navy suit, nodded at her. "Lieutenant Dobbs, can you walk us through the night of the arrest?" She cleared her throat. "I was on patrol around 10:30 p.m. when I noticed the defendant acting suspiciously near several businesses that had reported recent break-ins." The prosecutor nodded. "And what led you to detain him?" "His behavior." "He appeared to be surveying the area, lingering near closed storefronts. I asked for ID, and he refused to comply." Terrence didn't react. He just watched. The defense attorney, Victoria Hayes, stood up. "Lieutenant Dobbs," she began, flipping through a folder, "are you familiar with the Fourth Amendment?" Corinne's irritation crept up her neck. "Of course." "Good." The attorney adjusted her glasses. "Then you understand that an officer needs reasonable suspicion to detain someone. Can you specify what Mr. Lawson was doing that made him a suspect?" Corinne stiffened. "He was loitering near a high-end shopping area late at night." The attorney raised an eyebrow. "Loitering? Would you say walking is a crime?" Corinne exhaled slowly. "It depends on the circumstances, right? So let's clarify those circumstances. Did you see Mr. Lawson try to enter any closed businesses?" "No." "Did he run, hide, do anything that suggested criminal intent?" Corinne hesitated. "No." The courtroom was silent. The attorney let the weight of the moment settle before asking, "How many people walked down that street that night?" "I don't have that number." "Did you stop all of them?" "No." But you stopped him. The shift in the room was unmistakable. Karen tightened her grip on the stand. The attorney glanced at Terrence, then back at the judge. No further questions. For now, Karen swallowed. This wasn't going how she expected ... and something told her it was about to get worse. When the judge gave Terrence Lawson permission to speak, Karen stiffened. "Your Honor, I'd like to introduce myself properly." Karen's stomach knotted. "My name is Special Agent Terrence Lawson." The room fell silent. "I am a federal investigator with the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. For the past 7 months, I've been working undercover to investigate racial profiling and unlawful arrests." Karen's breath caught in her throat. Terrence pulled out his badge, holding it up for the judge to see. "This case was never about me being a suspect. It was about me being a target." Karen's vision blurred. "This wasn't happening," the judge nodded. "After reviewing the documents presented by Mr. Lawson's team, it's clear this arrest was unjustified." The defense attorney folded her arms. "We're filing a motion to dismiss all charges immediately." Motion granted. Karen barely registered the gavel coming down. But the worst part, Terrence Lawson wasn't finished. He turned to her, his voice steady. "Lieutenant Dobbs, do you know why I was in that neighborhood that night?" She swallowed hard. "I was following a lead on corrupt policing. Reports of unlawful stops, racial profiling, false reports." Karen's pulse pounded in her ears. "I went out that night alone. No wires, no backup. Just me." He tilted his head slightly, and within minutes, I was detained. "By you." The courtroom was silent. The judge turned to Karen. "Lieutenant Dobbs, the DOJ will be conducting a full review of your cases and your department's conduct." Karen's breath hitched. A full review meant every arrest, every report, everything she had done in uniform was about to be scrutinized. Terrence's voice cut through the silence. "How many others?" Karen froze. "How many people have you done this to?" Her mouth opened, then closed. She had no answer, and that silence was answer enough. For years, Karen believed she had control, that she could decide who belonged and who didn't. But today, she wasn't in control of anything. Because today, she was the problem. Don't be like her. Power isn't a shield against accountability. If you stay silent when you see injustice, you're part of the problem. Speak up, pay attention, and never assume that authority makes someone right. If you found this story thought-provoking, subscribe to Unfolded Tales Explained and hit the bell icon for more eye-opening stories.